For most of history, humans lived so vastly different from us today. The sheer fact that you can access this video from all four corners of the globe on a handheld device or a computer crafted from metals, glass, plastics, and ceramic materials would simply be mind-blowing for all who came before us. Differences between life in the Middle Paleolithic and life today lies in the level of technological advancement and the complexity of societies. In the Middle Paleolithic, which spanned roughly from 300,000 to 30,000 years ago, humans lived as hunter-gatherers in small bands or tribes. They relied on stone tools and fire for survival, had a nomadic lifestyle, and lived in temporary shelters such as caves or simple huts. The Earth's landscape also looked quite different from what it does today. During this period, the climate varied, with alternating cold and warm phases, leading to the expansion and retreat of glaciers. Much of Europe was covered by vast ice sheets, while other regions like Africa, parts of Asia, and the Middle East experienced diverse environments, including grasslands, forests, and savannas. Rivers and lakes were essential sources of water and resources for early humans. In terms of animal life, the Middle Paleolithic was characterized by the presence of now extinct megafauna, such as mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, cave lions, and bears. These large mammals roamed the landscape alongside smaller game like deer, boar, and smaller carnivores. Humans hunted these animals for food, clothing, and tools, and their interactions with these species were integral to their survival. But the biggest and most astonishing difference was that we shared our planet with at least 8 other human species during this time. The famous Neanderthals endured Europe and Asia's chilly weather, who we coexisted and even interbred with for thousands of years, sharing a small amount of our DNA with them. We shared interests in advanced tool-making and artistic expression. They probably even taught us a few things. But their total population remained low, and they seemed to die off around 40,000 years ago, just as our ever-growing population was spreading around the world. The mysterious Denisovans eked out an existence in the rarefied air of what is now Siberia and Tibet, and possibly further afield, who again we interbred with roughly 5% of their DNA occurring in Melanesians, Aboriginal Australians, and Filipino Negritos. This distribution suggests that there were Denisovan populations across large parts of Asia interacting with modern humans. They seemed to die out around only 25,000 years ago. Modern humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans were all very closely related, hence still being able to produce fertile offspring, sharing a last common ancestor, approximately 550,000 to 700,000 years ago. Homo erectus, the long-legged cosmopolitan species, so called because of the impressive geographical range it once spanned, still wandered through parts of Indonesia, an extremely important human, likely a forebearer to many species who came after them, including us. Homo longi, also known as Dragon Man, lived in China. It is known from just one skull found in northeastern China. The skull is the longest ever found from any human species. They had a brain volume of 1,420 cubic centimeters within the range of modern humans and Neanderthals. They lived at the same time and in the same range as the Denisovans, dating to a minimum of 146,000 years ago. Homo heidelbergensis was alive in Central and Southern Africa. Heidelbergensis is likely our direct ancestor and the last common ancestor of us and the Neanderthals. European populations of this species evolved into the Neanderthals, while a separate population of Homo heidelbergensis in Africa evolved into our own species, Homo sapiens. The last of them seemed to die off around 200,000 years ago. Other species were rather distinct from us. Homo naledi, with its ape-sized brain, rambled through the woody grasslands of South Africa. Naledi may have created art and buried their dead. Although this is debated by scientists, if it is true, it may change the way we think about the link between brain size and intelligence. The diminutive Homo Floresiensis, who lived on the small island of Flores and hunted dwarf elephants and giant rats, was still alive and kicking. When first discovered, it was suggested that Homo Floresiensis was possibly descended from Javanese Homo erectus. However, more detailed analysis of skeletal remains has uncovered traits more archaic than Asian Homo erectus and more similar to the Australopithecines and Homo habilis. So scientists now think its ancestor may have come from an early African dispersal by a primitive Homo species, extending back hundreds of thousands of years beyond previous estimates. Homo Luzonensis, who lived and breathed on the island of Luzon in the Philippines, considering it has been an island for millions of years, them or their ancestors, who may have been Asian Homo erectus or some other even earlier Homo, would have needed to have made a sea crossing of several miles at minimum to reach the island, indicating ancient seafaring ability. Archaic human presence on Luzon dates to as early as 770,000 to 630,000 years ago. The inhabitants of Luzon seem to eat a lot of Philippine deer and use tools for butchering. The start of the Middle Paleolithic saw the emergence of more sophisticated tools, the widespread use of fire, and the rise of us, Homo sapiens, evidenced by the first finds of anatomically modern humans dated to around 300,000 years ago. At the site of Jebel Irhoud in modern-day Morocco in North Africa, more than 20 bones from at least 5 individuals and a number of stone tools were found. The human remains included part of a skull, a jawbone, teeth, and limb bones that had come from 3 adults, a juvenile, and a child aged about 7 years old. The facial bones found resembled those of humans today, but with much larger lower jaws and more elongated brain cases. The tools discovered were found alongside gazelle bones and lumps of charcoal, indicating the presence of fire and cooking in the cave. The ecology of their North African environment would have been quite different to the present, and probably represented a dry, open, and likely a steppe-like environment roamed by horses, bovids, gazelles, rhinoceros, and other various predators. There is no single agreed origin for Homo sapiens. There are ancient remains of early Homo sapiens in Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, as mentioned, Omo Kibish in Ethiopia, and Florisbad in South Africa, suggesting that our species arose from multiple sites. There were at least several out-of-Africa dispersals of modern humans, possibly beginning as early as 270,000 years ago, including 15,000 years ago to at least Greece, and certainly via northern Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, about 130,000 to 115,000 years ago. There is even evidence that modern humans had reached China around 80,000 years ago, but these fossils seem to represent failed dispersal attempts by early Homo sapiens, who were likely replaced by local Neanderthal populations. The so-called recent dispersal of modern humans took place about 70 to 50,000 years ago. It is this migration wave that led to the lasting spread of modern humans throughout the world, and the peoples we are all descended from today. During the Middle Paleolithic period, the pace of innovation in stone technology began to accelerate very slightly. One of the main innovations was the application of the prepared core technique, also known as the Levallois technique, that was more elaborate than previous Acheulean techniques, which was creating rough flake tools by hitting a suitable stone with a hammer stone. The resulting flake that broke off would have a natural sharp edge for cutting. The prepared core technique involved meticulously flaking one side of a core to ensure that a flake of predetermined size and shape could be produced with precision in a single strike. Middle Paleolithic toolkits included points, which could be hafted onto shafts to make spears. These stone heads could be fixed to the spear shaft by a resin or by bindings made of animal sinew, leather strips, or vegetable matter. Both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were capable of producing these tools and weapons. Neanderthals hunted large game animals, mostly by ambushing them and attacking them with melee weapons such as thrusting spears, rather than attacking them from a distance with projectile weapons. Previous assumptions suggested this was solely for hunting and killing prey. However, a more detailed examination of these ancient 300,000-year-old spears found in Schöningen, Germany, the oldest weapons reported in archaeological records, shows that these wooden spears would have enabled Neanderthals to also successfully kill at a distance. A study demonstrated that a target could be hit from 20 meters away. showing distance hunting was well within the repertoire of hunting strategies of Neanderthals. Homo sapiens definitely did have more variability in their tools though, especially for hunting. At the site of Katanga in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Homo sapiens 90,000 years ago were using some of the earliest barbed points ever found, like this harpoon point, to spear huge prehistoric catfish weighing as much as 150 pounds and other large, fast marine mammals. And perhaps most significantly, the innovation that the Neanderthals never seemed to learn nor adopt, the bow and arrow. Its earliest known use dates back to 61,000 years ago, discovered in Sibudu Cave, South Africa. The bow and arrow allowed hunters to take down prey from a much greater distance compared to earlier hunting methods, such as spears or clubs. Overall, the invention of the bow and arrow transformed hunting from a close-range, high-risk endeavor into a more efficient, long-range pursuit. It seems like a fairy tale, but while all this was going on, a tiny human species, Homo Floresiensis, standing only around 3.5 feet tall, were living on a beautiful tropical island, sharing it with Komodo dragons, the giant stork Leptoptylos robustus, vultures, giant rats, and dwarf elephants called stegodons. The youngest Floresiensis bone remains on the island date to 60,000 years ago, and the youngest stone tools to 50,000 years ago. Their disappearance is close to the time that modern humans reached the area, suggesting that the initial encounter may have caused or contributed to their extinction. In the Middle Paleolithic, it has usually been assumed that women gathered plants and firewood, and men hunted and scavenged dead animals. But a study done in 2023 suggests women hunted in almost 80% of both ancient and present-day hunter-gatherer societies. It's important to note that egalitarianism was very important in the Paleolithic because of a need to distribute resources such as food and meat equally to avoid famine and ensure a stable food supply. Although Middle Paleolithic hominin diets consisted mainly of ungulates, increasing evidence demonstrates that humans at least occasionally consumed tortoises, birds, leporids, fish, and carnivores. Basically anything edible they could get their hands on in their environment. For example, Neanderthals of Spy Cave in Belgium were eating mammoths, woolly rhinos, wild sheep, horses and reindeer, suggesting a meat-heavy diet. And Neanderthals living on the coast of Gibraltar were collecting mollusks and baking them. Even dolphin and seal remains were found at the site. In Suva del Cidrón in Spain, Neanderthals seemingly were eating little meat and ate a diet mostly of mushrooms, pine nuts and even moss, showcasing adaptation to their own unique environment. And we were pretty much the same, sharing the trait of adapting to our distinct environments by eating whatever sustenance was available: meat, fruit, vegetation, insects, nuts, mushrooms, you name it. In Shanidar Cave 40,000 years ago, modern humans were mixing wild mustard and pistachios into their food, just to spice things up a little. When times got pretty bad, we even ate our own, with evidence for cannibalism found in places such as Krapina and Blombos Cave. Evidence of artistic expression dates back 130,000 years, revealing a fascinating glimpse into the creative minds of our ancient ancestors. For instance, at a Neanderthal site in Croatia, talons from white-tailed eagles exhibit cut marks and patterns of wear, suggesting they were worn as personal ornaments. Remarkably, this predates Homo sapiens' presence in the region by over 50,000 years, highlighting the Neanderthals' capacity for abstract thinking long before interactions with modern humans. In Spain, uranium-thorium dating of painted designs in the caves of La Pasiega, a hand stencil in Maltravieso, and red-painted speleothems in Ardales yielded an age of more than 64,800 years, a good 15,000 years before the modern human Indonesian hand stencils, once thought to be the world's oldest works of art. In July 2021, scientists reported the discovery of a bone carving made of deer, one of the world's oldest works of art, made by Neanderthals about 51,000 years ago. The carvings include angled lines that form a pattern, clearly made intentionally, rather than as a result of butchering the animal. The oldest created by Homo sapiens were found in 2002 in Blombos Cave. Situated in South Africa, ochre stones were discovered engraved with grid or crosshatch patterns dated to some 70,000 years ago. This suggested to some researchers that early Homo sapiens were capable of abstraction and production of abstract art or symbolic art. Also discovered at the Blombos Cave were shell beads, also dating to 70,000 years ago. The earliest cave art found made by Homo sapiens is in a cave called Leang Bulu Sipong 4 in the south of Sulawesi, an Indonesian island. The panel is almost 5 meters wide and appears to show a type of buffalo called an anoa, plus wild pigs found on Sulawesi. Alongside them are smaller figures that look human, but also have animal features such as tails and snouts. In one section, an anoa is flanked by several figures holding spears. In Europe, from 40,000 years ago, cave paintings become common all over the place. There's Cave of El Castillo, Spain 40,000 years old, Kapova Cave, Bashkortostan, Russia 36,000 years old, and Chauvet Cave, near Vallon-Pont-d'Arc, France. Although using fire started long before the Middle Paleolithic, with evidence of control of fire by a member of Homo range from 1.7 to 2.0 million years ago. Evidence for it becoming widespread is during this time Kalambo Falls in Zambia, 180,000 years ago. Several artifacts related to the use of fire by Homo sapiens have been recovered, including charred logs, charcoal, carbonized grass stems and plants, and wooden implements, which may have been hardened by fire. The site has been dated through radiocarbon dating through amino acid racemization. Fire was used for heat treatment of silkrete stones to increase their workability before they were knapped into tools by a culture called the Stilbay culture in South Africa. These Stilbay sites date back from 164,000 to 72,000 years ago, with the heat treatment of stone beginning by about 164,000 years ago. At the Amudian site of Chesim Cave, near the city of Kfar Qasim, Israel, evidence exists of the regular use of fire from before 382,000 before present to around 200,000 before present, at the end of Lower Pleistocene. Large quantities of burned bone and moderately heated soil lumps were found, and the cut marks found on the bones suggest that butchering and prey defleshing took place near fireplaces. The earliest evidence for controlled fire use by humans on the Indian subcontinent, dating to between 50,000 and 55,000 years ago, comes from the main Belan archaeological site, located in the Belan River Valley in Uttar Pradesh, India. Neanderthals in Europe at Terra Amata in France weren't slacking either. A fireplace with ashes dated between 380,000 and 230,000 years ago have been found there. At Saint-Estève-Janson in France, there is evidence of 5 hearths and reddened earth in the Escale cave. These hearths have been dated to 200,000 years ago. In conclusion, life in the Middle Paleolithic for humans was characterized by a nomadic existence, relying on hunting and gathering for survival, using fire to cook, stay warm, and warm off dangerous predators, and of course, a deep love for their friends and family, just like ourselves today. Through the development of sophisticated tools, mastery of fire, and cultural expressions such as art, our ancestors laid the groundwork for the advancements that would follow. Their resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity in the face of challenges continue to inspire us today as we reflect on the rich tapestry of human history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.